Hello and welcome back to Las Cruces Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Carlos Parra with Nexus Media Group, and today I have an awesome guest named Matt. And so what we were doing is, this podcast was originally created to just kind of get the word out right, where non-essential businesses were still operating in Las Cruces, and I put this out on Facebook, and Matt was like, "Hey, I want to be a part of this." And so, Matt, welcome to Las Cruces Small Business Podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So, Matt, if you could do me a favor and you could just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. This is your 2-minute elevator pitch. Something about yourself, your business, and your services that you're offering here in Las Cruces.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a local medical here in Las Cruces. I run the Paint Specialists. We are a full-blown painting company. We do interior, exterior, stucco repair, roof coatings. We also do concrete and decorative coatings as well. And we service pretty much Doña Ana County and even other counties as well that are close by, such as Luna County and Sierra County up in TRC, and even Otero County. So kind of have a big territory.
Awesome. Okay, so you're still rocking and rolling during COVID, right? And so I always like to ask people, like, hey, like, how did you get into painting and the services that you're offering?
Well, actually, the way we started this company was with the help of Sherwin-Williams. Actually, they saw some of the work that we did in our new construction homes for the construction purposes, and they basically approached me and said, "Why don't you start a company doing painting? You guys are doing really well for your new construction. You're doing a lot of faux finishes, Venetian plasters, things like that. And we feel like there's a need in the community for that." And at first I was kind of hesitant because we weren't geared up for that. We were doing construction work. And I kind of gave it a little bit more thought, and they kind of pushed me into it, where they were handing us, my name out to people, my number, and they were calling us for painting jobs. And that's kind of how we got into it.
Oh, that is awesome. What a testimony for especially for such a large company like Sherwin-Williams, and just say, hey, you know what? These guys are doing great work, and just referring that name, that word of mouth, that neighborhood community of just saying, hey, this is the business, these are the guys that you need to turn to. That is a great testimony.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things is we look at, right, and especially, right, because I'm sure that they see lots of different, contractors coming in. And obviously there was something there that they noticed, right? There was something there that said, hey, these are the guys we want to refer. So, and I always like to ask, what sets you apart? Because, again, we have lots of different, contractors here in Las Cruces, from construction to painters. What sets you apart from the competition?
A lot of it comes down to the products that we use, and then also the techniques. There's the good thing about paint is there's kind of the nomenclature where everybody thinks it's all the same, but it's not. And so being able to work with them, we actually have access to a lot of their industrial line. So we actually will use a lot of that on customers' homes, and that way we can get a little bit better results than just your typical, home or Home Depot or Lowe's. And I think that's one thing that sets us apart. Technique is another. So processing, we use a lot of different tapes, a lot of different techniques, including from our spray tips to the different machines that we use. The processing makes a big difference in the final outcome and longevity of the project.
Awesome. So I just we're looking at this going, you kind of spoke about techniques and knowing the industry. How did you develop these techniques? Was it just years of experience, or is it something that you did research on? If you can elaborate on that.
Right. It's a little bit of combination of both. So there's a lot of research that went into it, a lot of YouTubing, but at the same time, just in general research, links and things. And then also there's a lot of missing information, and that's where we actually had to come in and kind of invent our own way of doing things by utilizing different products. So for example, our staining, when we stain doors or cabinetry or anything like that, it's pretty much like a 6 or 7 step process to actually do the staining. But the results are great. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and we basically concocted our own way of doing things.
Awesome. Yeah.
Utilizing a lot of products.
Yeah. And so, yeah, because we personally, we bought a house in November, and, we're kind of touching up some stuff here and there. And my wife and I and my in-laws put in our vinyl hardwood flooring, right? It's because, that tongue and groove is making life a lot easier, tearing out carpet. And there was a piece of wood, and yeah, I've just sanded it and stained it. So that's actually pretty interesting that yours is a 7-layer process, a 7-step. Just kind of shows that years of experience where, an amateur like me goes, oh, look, I'm going to sand it, stain, and just wipe it off. So that is awesome. And it just kind of goes to show that years of experience where you've developed a technique that nobody really else is going to have. So that is awesome. Okay. So we know what sets you apart, but there's in my industry, at least, right? I'm a web developer by trade. I do search engine optimization. And at least in my industry, there's always a misconception of going, hey, you're going to get us number one and by the next day, right? That we're creating that content. Like, well, no, not exactly. Sometimes it takes anywhere from 6 months to a year. So what's a common misconception in your business?
I would say one of the biggest misconceptions is that a lot of individuals don't know the amount of work that goes into it. And it's not, I think the misconception is they think they're paying somebody or a group of people to come and, dip their roller into a bucket and put it on the wall and kind of lay it out. But they don't see a lot of the prep work that goes into it. Even from interiors to exteriors, exteriors, sometimes they'll have stucco that's delaminated, in which case we actually have to go in and cut the stucco out, remove it, repaper the wall or the area, and then wire it, base coat it with stucco, put a top coat of stucco on it, and then be able to prime and paint. So, that's just an example. But yeah, there's a lot of prep work into it to get a good, long-lasting result. So it's I think one of the things that people don't realize is the amount of work that goes into everything.
Yeah. I kind of see that too of again, your service being able to go in and say, hey, we're just not going to code it and say, hey, we're done. Great. Where, you're able to make sure that your job is going to last for years to come with that homeowner. So that's fantastic. So, and we kind of touched base, of how you got into the business, but what motivates you in business?
I think the biggest motivation is the fact that we can actually help people. Because here, unfortunately, there's, from different types of contractors, even out of town contractors. I've seen people from Kansas, Arkansas, especially when we had the hailstorms. And, sometimes we get called in to essentially redo their work because it wasn't done right. And these people have paid thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands, depending on what's going on. And just to see that the fact that they've been essentially taken advantage of kind of keeps us motivated to say, hey, let's become a brand name out there, somebody that we can trust, that they know that, we're going to be able to go back in case there is an issue, and we're local. And so that's kind of the motivation, is to help people out.
Gotcha. And this normally isn't on our question, but on our question list, but you kind of touched base on something there where, especially during the hailstorms where we had fly-by-night companies come in. How do you guys address that, or at least educate Las Cruces to say, hey, we're a local company, or, these guys come in, they hit entire neighborhoods. Is there a way that you, at least, especially with your experience of being able to combat that, and or being able to at least offset and educate Las Cruces residents on saying, hey, we're local and these guys are going to show up and they're going to take advantage, they're going to leave?
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to try and make a blanket statement where everybody is like that.
Yeah.
There's some people that are not, but a lot of it does come down to education. So even with the jobs that, we bid on, a lot of it comes down to educating the customer. So for example, primer, exterior primer, there's a couple different kinds. And we tell people, look, majority of people use a stucco conditioner instead of an actual primer. The viscosity is different. Everything's different about it. They're just two different products meant for two different things. But here you have some people running around calling it a primer. And it's not really designed to be a primer per se. And so that's part of the education process. Or even roof coatings, for example. We tell people, make sure that you have a contractor that if they're going to be applying, let's say, an elastomeric roof coating, that they obviously prime it first, and basically use a gray primer. And people kind of ask, well, why should I use a gray primer? What's the difference? It's going to be a white roof. And I said, well, if they use a white primer, you can't really distinguish if you're putting the product down at the right rate. So if you have gray and you put the first coat on, the gray will show through just a little bit, and that kind of gives you a visual indication from an applicator standpoint that they need to put more product down. So those awesome. Are just educational things that we try and tell our customers.
Great. Yeah. And thanks for that. Because again, that just kind of shows that experience, right? Of going, hey, we're using two different colors. My background is in art. And so I understand, doing that first layer of your undertone, and, and that way you're able to see that and bring that forward. That's such a great technique. And it's neat for me because, again, I'm matching up the fine art and then matching that still with painting and just going, wow, that's actually pretty interesting. So, okay. So we have what motivates you in business. What motivates you in life?
On a personal level, it's family, and it's also the community at large, because, through different life experiences and things like that, I basically come up with the concept of, at the end of the day, it's not about what, how many treasures you have, when you pass away. It's about the memories. It's about, basically taking care of the people that are around you. And, can you leave a legacy? Because that's really, at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to really live on. And you can see it just culturally, some of the things that are passed down from grandparents to, even their grandkids, and that's how things live on. So that's kind of what personally motivates me, is just passing things along and helping everybody out.
That's fantastic. Well, that's a great motivation. Okay. So, right, we're in COVID-19 isolation, we're mandatory lockdown, unless you're an essential. And so I like to look at this going, although it seems like you're staying busy, but I like to sit there and go, okay, so we can't go anywhere, right? We're kind of isolated. We can't go out to restaurants or anything else like that. Are you learning something new in this season of isolation?
Always. Yeah. So, I'm always learning, always trying to invent new ways, even just new techniques, revisiting things that we know how to do, and saying, is there a better way to do this? Or even new products, for example. Sherwin-Williams is getting ready to release about 4 or 5 new products to the marketplace coming in here in about another month or 2. Some are already out in certain markets like the East Coast. And so, we have to learn about those, and if there's any ways we can maybe incorporate them, or just learning in general about them, because each individual paint is going to be a little bit different on applicating. How fast does it dry? What are the characteristics? Does it hold up? Those kind of things. Awesome. So yeah, learning.
Yeah, well, that's pretty unique because, I like, and again, right, I'm not a professional, I'm a geek, right? I know code and I know algorithms. But when I look at these things going like that, I never think twice about the paint, how it's going to be applied, if it's going to be durable here, especially in the coming months of hitting that 100-degree weather, right? I think this week we're hitting up in the 90s, right? The high 90s and sometimes in a few days. And so I look at that going, I don't even think about that. So that is, again, for me, looking at what you do going, man, that extensive knowledge of knowing what you're doing, and that you're doing all that research, because to somebody like me who's a homeowner, or somebody that, and again, in November was looking for a home, looking at the new home builds, things like that, that's something we never would have thought of. So I appreciate that knowledge that you bring to your business. Okay, so on top of all this, I'm a geek, and right, I'm a coder. I enjoy algorithms, but even deeper than that, I'm also a comic book geek. And right, that's why I kind of like go, okay, we can do podcasts because they're easy and they're kind of geeky, and I can manipulate algorithms on YouTube, and you guys will be found, yada, yada, yada. So we look at things like that going, but again, with that geekiness, I look at going, okay, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I would say probably controlling the weather. That would be
nice.
Be an interesting one, that's for sure.
Well, you might be able to get a lot more work done too if you're able to stop the rain.
That's a possibility. Yeah, exactly.
That's a selling point for your business. Okay, so the typical Las Cruces choice, red or green chili?
That's a good question. Subset to that might be which one's hotter. I think probably would have to side with red.
Red, awesome. Yes, I completely agree. Okay, so this kind of brings us down to end the podcast. Matt, right? It's COVID-19. You're still offering your services. You're still working. How can people find you?
A couple of different ways. If you go to NM as in New Mexico, paintspecialists.com, that's one way. You can find us also on Facebook under the Paint Specialists. We're getting ready to do a lot of posting, some articles. That's one thing that we're getting ready to do is the educational section. Those are main ways to do it. You can also call us, our phone number is listed on Google. You can even go to Sherwin-Williams. They have our cards over there. They can pass them out to you. So there's a bunch of different ways.
Awesome. Matt, I thank you for your time. I really appreciate you just taking the time to be on the podcast. And Las Cruces, again, I just want the listeners, the viewers, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this podcast. Thank you for looking and investing into local businesses that are not just restaurants, right? That these are businesses that are still offering services here in Las Cruces during the COVID-19 outbreak and our time of isolation. And so again, Las Cruces, stay safe and have a great day. And Matt, thank you again.
All right. Thank you. Take care.